Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to episode 109 of Trail Society, brought to you by Rabbit. I'm Corinne Malcolm.
I'm Kaylee Henninger.
And I'm Hillary Allen.
And we wear sweatshirts every single week, I think, when we record, but it's feeling like
It's cold.
fall, right?
Yeah, it's
How are you guys
cold.
feeling?
I literally almost titled my Strava ride yesterday, "It smells like fall," but then I didn't. It's a good story.
It smells like pumpkin spice latte season.
I was
Yep.
about to say, yeah.
Yep.
I
We don't
know
really get a fall in Pacific Northwest. I feel like our fall's like what, 3 weeks long, Corinne? Maybe 2 weeks long.
The trees will turn colors and then the leaves will be down and then it'll rain. And that's how
Yeah.
you know that the
Oh,
season has changed.
Yep.
no.
It's kind of
Well, it
sad.
snowed up in the mountains up here, so it's definitely feeling colder.
Do you guys have aspen leaves turning yet, Hillary?
Not yet. I mean, up higher, yeah, but it's
Hmm.
not. I think it's going to be one of those years where it's like snows and then everything falls. So I'm not
Hmm.
sure we're going to actually have a fall.
Yeah, I'm going to Park City on Friday for like a week because we have fall break, and I'm hoping that there's yellow aspens because it's
I
like the
bet there
best
are.
time of season. But I
I
bet
bet
I
there
bet it
are.
is there. So
Yay.
I'll have an update for the next show. But I'm hoping it's like the perfect season, which
Yeah,
it's always the
USA.
perfect season in Park City. But
It is. USA
Hmm.
Biathlon, we used to have training camps out in Midway, kind of like Heber
nice.
Midway
Yep.
area. Spent a lot of time in Park City and that whole zone. And it was always basically the whole month of October. And it was like always perfect. Like the
Hmm.
leaves were
It's
so good. We have
yeah.
Larch season here, and Larch season is
Oh, nice.
also
That's cool
pretty good.
too. Yeah. We have a couple
Hmm.
gems near Portland that are within like an hour that apparently have a couple larch like groves, but they're very hidden and they're very hard to find.
You want that, honestly.
Yeah.
I think
I've
you
only
want
been to one once, but yeah, they're not the same.
Hillary, I feel like fall trips always stress me out because I'm worried that I'm like gonna miss fall somehow. I know you're only gone for like 10 days, but are you feeling that a little bit?
I'm feeling that so much. Like I know I go up to I've been trying to like get up into the high country, but then it's not been the best weather. So it's I have like 3 hours and I'm like, do I really want to start my run at 5 a.m. in the dark and then yeah, be like rained on and have some storms? So no, I feel that way. I think it's good probably gonna be over by the time I get back. But maybe there's fall in Canfranc. Like, do
I
they
think
have
so.
larches? I'm
I
not sure.
Italy has larches. I don't know if Canfranc has larches. But I would love to go to like Courmayeur or other zones kind of in that like September-y time because it is
Mm,
all like old larch forests and I think it has to be
mhm,
just absolutely stunning, like up the Grand Col zone.
Well,
that
so this
sounds
is like
dreamy.
the first time I ever, when I lived in France, I've never lived in a place that had larches. I literally was like, what's going on? I've never seen this thing before. I'm
Okay, yeah,
like,
Mm,
so back
is
up,
it
back up.
dying?
So larches are or tamaracks, depending on where you live,
mhm,
are pine trees that lose their needles every year. They turn yellow and they lose their needles. And supposedly there are some where I grew up in like northern Wisconsin, but I don't recall that at all from my childhood. I recall like maples and that kind of thing. My
mm,
dad is like, there's a larch in our backyard, Corinne. I don't know what you're talking about because I decidedly remember because they're not really in Bozeman, but they're definitely like in Missoula and Glacier as you kind of move west in Montana even further.
mm.
And I remember running around Bozeman like on a casual like 40-minute shakeout run and seeing a larch in someone's yard. And I like stopped and I was like, what is this? And I ran home to Stephen, who grew up in like Larch Mecca. And I was
Mm.
like, oh my goodness, it's like a Dr. Seuss tree. Like it's this yellow pine tree and it's like bright yellow. And he's like, yeah, like that's a larch. Like, duh, don't you know that? And it just like blew my mind that there were like entire forests of this like bright yellow, beautiful pine tree thing. So, the PNW, it's just perfect.
It's it's pretty good. But
It's
yeah.
pretty good.
Um, Before we dive too deep, I wanted to give a shout out because, oh my goodness, my sweatshirt just arrived. I'm not wearing it currently because it just got here. But there's a cool podcast. They've got, I think, 4 episodes out now, 5 episodes. They're going to do 11 episodes this season. But it's hosted by Verna, Steph, Allison, so Allison Desir,
Mm.
Steph Flippin. Um, and they're hosting this really cool podcast called Earth Movers. And I got a sweatshirt from the Kickstarter. And I want to give them a shout out because their podcast I feel like is really unique. And like this is like quoted directly from the bio. And it says it's a trail podcast reclaiming the narrative by centering the experience of people of color on trails with stories, insights, and wisdom for everyone. And it's really cool and really well done. And they are highlighting these really important stories. And I got this really sick. This is
Oh,
an audio
fun. Earth
podcast.
movers.
The
Cool.
Earth Movers and their logo is really sick. And I got this really beautiful black sweatshirt and I'm really excited to rep it. But you guys should give it a listen because they're doing a really great job with the interviews, and it's been really fun. Um, and I think that's the only plug I have before we dive into some cool stuff today. We've got some science, we've got some news, we've got some results, we've got a really cool interview with one of our rabbit scholarship winners for Javalina.
Mhm.
And so before we dive into kind of the rest of the show, we just got to give a plug and a shout out to our partner this season, Rabbit. You guys, we've all been brainstorming some stuff, and I'm curious what's going on behind the scenes right now.
I mean, I think it's all TBD, but we have some cool stuff coming down the pipeline potentially for next year for you all. You guys have sold our all of our stuff out, which is awesome. We have what, like couple crews left, so if you want to feel cozy, you should go get one of those. They're a little oversized. They're very trendy. I get a lot of compliments on mine, and I'm surrounded by young people often. So clearly they're trendy. You should go get one. Hillary's repping hers right now. The flower on the front is super, super cute.
Yeah.
So yeah, you should head over to the Rabbit site and check out what's left of our collection. Again, there's not much left. There's a couple sun shirts left that are in the sage green. There's a couple race tank tops left with the floral print, and then there's a couple of the crew necks. But we're gonna be thinking of some new stuff for next year. So, pop into our DMs with some ideas of things that are still like missing from the trail running lineup for apparel. Anything that you guys really, really want, you should send them our way. And we'll think about it. But yeah, you guys can use code TRAILHOP. So trail TRAIL hop HOP 10 for September. That gets you your discount for that month. And Hillary, what have you been repping lately? Anything else you want to add?
Aside from the crew, I mean, it's like now my go-to thing if it entered like sweatshirt season. I mean, yeah, I've actually been using the sun tee a lot, well, the long sleeve, but I actually really love the leggy smash-ons. I know we don't have any of those like still
Hmm.
left, but
They're good.
they're becoming one of my favorites, and I've not ever been much of a like a spandex gal. Um, and in a pinch, like the pocket storage actually works really well.
It does. Yeah,
If
I
you don't
wore
want to
them
run with a
for.
pack or like anything, it's really nice, yeah, to put all that stuff in there.
We need
Mhm.
pockets, right? That's like the whole
Yeah.
thing why women have to carry like 12 things in their hands at once is because we don't have enough pockets. So
Okay, but
Hmm.
also something to add, like post run, and then you have like all of the things in your hands, like to like go into grocery stores or like to and
It's
from the
true.
car.
It's
I
true.
can like, put so much stuff in that waistband. I don't think it looks that cute, but it's very useful.
It's not cute, but I've gone into a store before and like didn't want to overfill a bag, so like I got some bars and some bananas. I stuck them in my pockets. I have no shame in that.
I love it so much. So yeah, Trail Hop 10 over at runandrev.com. Go snag some stuff while it lasts. We've got some results that we'll actually be able to update you on the next time we record because they're currently happening. We love talking about tour. We talk about tour every year. It's a 330-kilometer race. That's like the primary distance. There's some shorter distances and some longer distances, including a 450. Why would anything be longer than 330K? I don't know. But friend of the pod, my training partner, Caitlin Gerbin's out there currently in the mix at the front of the women's race. I think the top five women are within like 30 minutes of each other, like going into night two right now, which is a big deal. So I expect that it'll take them less than 90 hours to get it done. And that's a hard thing to say, just a 90-hour outing. But also Caitlin's being crewed by Zach Miller and Zach's girlfriend, Jess. And Jess, if her name's not Jess, I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure it's Jess. That's what it says in my head. Um, but yeah, just a really cool experience out in the Aosta Valley over in Italy. So we'll be cheering her on. Her husband is also competing, taking part in tour. So I think mom and dad are over there. And then I think they might have a crew for the crew because the 1-year-old is also in tow. So
Mm.
there's a lot of moving pieces behind the scenes on that one. But speaking of cold fall weather and mountain weather and things changing in the forecast, Run Rabbit Run happened over the weekend. The biggest prize purse in ultra running, I think it's 20K for the win right now, which is insane and really cool. They generally see really big temperature swings, I would say. Like it can be quite warm during the day. The hares or like the elite field starts at 1 p.m. That's the field that's eligible for the prize money. That field also cannot have pacers, so they're completely solo overnight, which is a big deal for American elites. They don't normally experience that, I would say, in many American 100-mile races. Um, but the temperature swing also oftentimes leads to like big DNF rates in the elite field as well. And this year, kind of critically, I think around the 30-mile mark effectively, like everyone saw their crews and then ran away from their crews. And right as like the front of the field left seeing their crews, a big thunderstorm rolled in and it dropped the temperature significantly. And I think it sleeted and hailed and rained on everyone for like upwards of 2 hours. And so we saw DNF rates. Mary Denholm, who's the early race leader, dropped out. Matt Daniels dropped out. Like there's a team competition going on. And like really, you have to be like, you and I cannot drop out. If we both finish, we've got a good shot of winning the team prize purse. Keely, your friend Jeff Stern, I think was Mary's partner maybe for the race, which
Mhm.
means he did not luck out in the team competition because Mary dropped. But it's just like it happens every year. And it's like there isn't, mandatory gear like there is at UTMB. And so people get caught out with like wind jackets and
Mhm.
like little gloves and they get really, really cold and really, really wet really fast. And people drop out of this race every single year for hypothermia. And it's like that is a controllable factor.
Yeah.
It still sucks, but it's a controllable factor. Um, so crazy weather overnight or into the nighttime hours, and then it dried out. But what that kind of led to is there were no course records this year, but Jess Rich won the men's race. He's a coach for Evoke, which is um, kind of the
Hmm.
break off from Uphill Athlete. Famously, most recently, Ruth and Tom Evans, who both won UTMB, come out of the Evoke coaching collective. John Harrison, who I think DNF'd his only other time at Run Rabbit in 2012, came back finishing second, and he was decked out in on stuff. And I was like, is this guy an on athlete? No, his wife is the on athlete. Genevieve Harrison is the on athlete. So her husband was second. I said, wow, the whole Harrison family is so fast. JP Giblin, who spent much of the spring and summer on the PCT, comes out of, in a weird way, race retirement and ends up finishing third to round out the podium. They're all in the prize money. On the women's side, Riley Brady took the win. They ran a really tactical race. We're not that far off of Mary. And then when Mary dropped, they took the lead and never looked back. They were chased at times by Becca Bramley, who I believe is a full-time social worker, but super, super strong runner, and McKendry Hickory, who's a local to Steamboat, whose house burned down last fall, if you guys remember that. Lost all of her belongings. Her and her husband were okay, and their dogs were okay, but they lost everything else. Um, so yeah, Riley Brady on the top of the podium, followed by Becca Bramley and McKendry Hickory, all in the money, all getting it done in pretty tough conditions. And they actually had some very tight racing kind of deep into the race. Um, and then I think Becca's team won the team competition, which means you get, I don't actually know what the total is now for the team first place, but all of a sudden it can add up. If you like set the course record and win the race and win the team competition, you can come home with like $30,000. So no pressure, but maybe we should all do Run Rabbit next year
And bring the appropriate clothes.
and bring the appropriate rain jackets that are seam sealed and heavy and sign a blood pact with your teammate that says that you won't drop out unless you have a running bone that's broken.
Mm.
But yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Did you hear anything from Jeff about the weather, Keely?
I haven't yet. No, I've given him a little bit of space to decompress and look kind of beastly.
I feel like he had a good day though. Didn't he finish in the top 10?
Yeah, he didn't have a horrible day, but I'm thinking it just looked pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
It definitely looked brutal, but I feel like he rounded out like a solid. It's a hard race for a lot of people. That 1 p.m.
Yeah.
start has to be so hard.
Yeah, and he was just living at altitude for like the exact amount of time to be acclimatized. So it's like kind of hard to be like, oh, you're for sure going to be acclimatized.
And that's so individual
But
too, right? Like sometimes you respond well, sometimes you don't
totally.
respond well.
Sometimes, yeah, for sure. And so I think, especially that high, 28 days is right on the cusp of you could still be feeling pretty crummy. But he'd been feeling like pretty rough the couple weeks out, but then I think he started feeling a little better getting closer to the race, which is good. But yeah, I'm excited to hear his debrief on it. Like in total Jeff fashion, he just ran a smart race.
Yeah, just looked really like just seemed to move really consistently all day,
Mhm.
which is great. And I think people were on course record pace maybe through like the
Mhm.
100K mark or so, and then things kind of fell apart for folks in the wee hours, which, the back 40% of the race, it's where it kind of makes or breaks you, I
Yeah,
think. So
100 miles is far.
it's a
100K
long
feels a
way
lot
to run.
shorter.
It's a long way in the dark by yourself. You're doing all the
Yeah.
navigation.
Yeah.
You're dealing with all the oddities. We know, like Shea Aquilano last year had a late DQ in the race because she accidentally left an aid station going in the wrong direction.
Mm.
So it's just like it's a little bit complicated. So
Mm.
It seems like everything else besides the DNF rate with some of the weather, it seems like otherwise the elite race was relatively smooth, which is
Mm,
we always love to see, particularly when there's that much money on
mhm.
the line. Um,
Totally.
and then I got to
Yeah.
give a shout out to some mamas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Erica Flowers and Megan Roach are both building back postpartum. I think their babies are probably a similar age, like less than a year. Erica finished OCC recently. She won the Ridge Run in Bozeman, which is a big deal. Finished OCC and then just won the Rut. So she's a two-time
Nice.
winner now at the Rut. And then Megan Roach and running her first 50 miles since like 2017 or 2018, which I think is their only other 50-mile race. Um, Comes and runs the Run Rabbit Run 50 mile and I think finishes like third or fourth overall. Runs a really great time and is kind of in her return postpartum as well. So just want to give a shout out to the mamas because that is like a whole nother level of return in which, it's very individual. There are no guarantees, and it's just really exciting to see people return to sport post having kids.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So shout out mamas out there.
Yeah.
Shout out
So
to my
very
mamas.
cool to see.
Um,
But also, like, if you're a mama out there and you haven't gotten back to race yet, that's okay too.
yeah. Oh my goodness. It is okay. I remember Emily Forsberg kind of talking about that. I think I don't remember if
Mm.
it was post first child or second child. She now has three children.
Yeah.
I think it was post second child, and she was trying to run CCC. And it
Mm.
was one of those things where it was like it was just a little bit too long, and it was just like a little bit too much, and ended up, dropping out kind of partway through. I want to say somewhere between La Folie and Champéloc, or maybe at Champéloc. So around the 50%, like 50% of the way through mark. And it's just like, that is like you swing and you miss sometimes, and that is a-okay as well. But that kind of ties in to some news and science things that we want to talk about. I
Mm-hmm.
can go. We, like, I guess speaking about the postpartum return, there is a really cool new article that came out by a group of Canadian researchers in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, which is one of my favorite sports medicine journals, if I get to be a nerd.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so lead author on the paper is a former Team Canada athlete turned researcher, Dr. Margie Davenport. She runs the Exercise in Pregnancy Instagram account, which is a wealth of really great information. So go give that a follow. Joined forces with Nicole Beamish's lab as well as Dr. Christina Previtt's lab. And I mean, the list of authors on this paper is awesome. It's basically a consensus statement coming out of Canada. And it's titled The 2025 Canadian Guideline for Physical Activity, Sedentary Behavior, and Sleep Throughout the First Year Postpartum. And it was kind of a first of its kind study where they did a multi-year process of interviewing and consulting tons of postpartum women, reviewing almost 20,000, 19,000 titles and abstracts, which
Mm.
included 574 unique studies and distilled into 17 systematic reviews, meta-analysis covering 21 maternal and infant health outcomes. They used these findings to inform guidelines and what they kind of like, in maybe high terms or like not to delve too deep on it effectively was that it emphasizes that there's no one size fit all approach in return and
Mm-hmm.
that progression towards return to activity, return to moderate to vigorous intensity activity, which is kind of that like, oh, we want you to get 120 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity a week. That needs to be individual and gradual and symptom based. And it allowed them to create a questionnaire on return to sport as well. So just like, again, research being done on topics in fields that have long been neglected, maybe more than anything. And I know that Keely and I we're DM friends with Dr. Davenport,
Mm-hmm.
and we would love to have her on to do a deeper dive into her kind of research area and this study in particular. So we will
Mm-hmm.
down the road do a deeper dive on this, but just wanted to give it a shout out. And again, I would go
Mm-hmm.
follow her at Exercise in Pregnancy on Instagram.
Yeah. And I really like how they laid the paper out because I feel like they made it very individualized, but they also had some key, like takeaways from the paper where they're saying like pending health conditions or something that's impeding your ability to exercise postpartum, that they recommend trying to get up to that like 4 times a week of exercise for 2 hours, a total of week per week exercise in the first like 12 weeks postpartum, but not putting any sort of like timeline on it to be like, oh, it must be in the first week, it must be in the fourth week, it must be in the sixth week. It can be in the first 12 weeks. And that might mean that you don't even start for the first 12 weeks, but like the goal is that like you could try to get to that level in the first 12 weeks. But also they recommend like talking with a pelvic floor specialist and working with them to try to integrate that kind of PT into your build back to the running or exercising as well. And so, yeah, this is like a really good starting point, I think, for the field because right now there's hardly any recommendations, especially recommendations that can be applied to an athletic population.
And it felt holistic, is what I would say.
Hmm.
Like they spent a lot
Yep.
of time talking about pelvic floor therapy and pelvic floor
Hmm.
PT and like how that counts towards like
Yeah.
returning to exercise, as well as
Hmm.
like sleep and sleep hygiene, because we
Yeah.
know our new parents out there are not sleeping because you're feeding a child every 3 hours type of
Hmm.
thing. So you're not getting these
Totally.
blocks of sleep. So they're talking about sleep hygiene and getting into those routines and what that might mean and what that might look like and how that impacts health, wellness. They talk a lot about mental health and how exercise can be
Hmm.
really important when it comes to outcomes of like postpartum depression and other symptoms. So I
Hmm.
think it's this nice holistic response. And then using that kind of like using symptoms, gradual and individualized approaches means
Hmm.
that when you hit 12 weeks, maybe you're already at X spot. I've got a PT friend who she's like, yeah, they say that you can return to run in 12 weeks. Well, that might actually mean that you're not running at all for 6 weeks or eight
Hmm.
weeks. And then, I'm hoping that if you're symptom free, that means that by the time you hit 12 weeks, you're actually able to run for 20 or 30 minutes in a row because we've been run
Hmm.
walking already for 6 weeks. And
Right.
so I think there's some of that approach in here too, where it's
Oh,
like,
totally.
you're not sedentary for 12 weeks. We want to do what's not, like they're looking for contraindications for health outcomes, but saying, okay, this is what we can do gradually to start
Mhm.
from, you've had a cesarean section, you had tearing during a vaginal birth, whatever those like, those specific individualized outcomes are from like the birth process itself. Like then how does that turn into that recovery pipeline? Like this allows them to start to actually think about that and say, if this, then that.
Hmm.
Or if you're at step one, if you can do step one without pain or with step one without X, Y, and Z thing, then you can go to step two. If you
Hmm.
can't do the step one without pain, we're going to bring you to this level and then progress you back up. So it's like
Hmm.
it gives people an actual potential to have an outline down the road in which it's not like, I don't know, like heal mama, we'll talk to you in 12 weeks time. Like that's also
Hmm.
like I feel like people, mothers, female athletes, carrying parents are people that oftentimes are just kind of like put aside as like fragile. And I think that this narrative puts more control back in the parents' hands, which I think is really lovely.
Hmm. Yeah. And again, they don't say like you must be running in those 120 minutes. It's just like we recommend getting to a level of exercise, which can be like cycling, elliptical,
Aggressive
walking.
walking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it can be anything. And then I think the more like, yeah, to your point, the more important part of it is like showing all of the contraindications to trying to get to this level quickly. And then it says even in the first year after childbirth, where it's like if you have all of these other symptoms like vaginal bleeding or past medical issues like eating disorders or malnutrition, like we're not going to try to get you to these levels right away because you're going to need to be able to like give your body time to recover postpartum, have enough energy and nutrients for your baby if you're breastfeeding, and then actually repair and come back smart. So yeah, very well done paper. I liked reading it and I'm excited to see what else comes out of those labs because I know she's been teasing a ton of studies coming in the next year or so.
And working on
Um,
new ones too. I saw that there was
yeah.
like a call out. I think she's in Edmonton, so not in Calgary, but U of Alberta in Edmonton, which has a bunch of researchers that I really love. I
Mhm.
studied bronchoconstriction in athletes and respiratory issues, and all of like my favorite people who work in that field are also in Edmonton. So they've got a great research hub at that university. So excited to see more come out of there. We've got some sports bar news that we want to touch on. That was exciting for us personally. Again, the PNW is the best for bias. Colorado's cool, I guess. Boulder
Yeah,
should have a
thanks.
sports.
It is
Why
pretty
doesn't
cool,
Boulder
but
have a women's sports bar? Anyway, I
I
digress.
don't know. They should. There's a lot of like pro sports moving here, and yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know why.
you should. So, Rough and Tumble, which is the women's sports bar in Seattle, which I think is over in Ballard, technically. That's like too far away for me in the city. That's like another country effectively in Seattle. So they just announced that they're opening up a new location in Columbia City, which is like a neighborhood away from me. It's biking distance. It's south of I-90. It's like on the right side of I-5.
Mhm.
The commute is delightful. And so I was very excited to see that in basically my neighborhood, which is super, super exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah,
That's cool.
I feel like I finally made it to the sports bra only a couple months ago for like a
The
fertility and
OG.
female athletes like little talk. And they just launched this like collaboration with the WNBA playoffs because we just got a WNBA team, so they're kind of building the hype before we start our season in March 2026. And they created this like partnership with a female-owned vegan ice cream shop where they made these like basketball ice cream sandwiches. And I just want one so badly, but I don't think I'm gonna get one.
You're like, that's so
They're
cool.
probably sold out already.
And
That's
the
awesome.
sports bra is like the OG
hmm
women's sports bar in the US. It was one of those things where when they opened, people are like, is there really a need for this? And it's like they've been offered a franchise deal.
Oh yeah.
And then there's like privately owned similar establishments all over the country now in major cities, which is I just think is really like satisfying and very cool. The one Rough and Tumble, for example, in Seattle, will host all like our soccer games and basketball games, but we'll also host like the Boston Marathon or US Olympic trials or whatever. So it's just like it's really cool that it's like kind of an inclusive women's sports space broadly as well. And then yeah, hosting talks, podcasts, other women's specific events has been really fun as well.
Mm.
So I don't know. Boulder, you should have one. I don't know why the pitch is
I
so,
agree.
or
I think we
Denver
have.
minimum. I don't know. I digress. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to dive into our interview for today. And so with that, we're going to get out of the way. All right. Okay, Daisy, go ahead and introduce yourself for our audience.
Hi, I'm Daisy Martinez. I am from Los Angeles, California, here in Southern California, and I am an ultra runner for almost 9 years now. I've been diagnosed also with multiple sclerosis. So I'm an ultra runner advocating also for athletes with autoimmune disease and mental health. And I'm also co-founder of a women's trail running group called Chingonas on the Run. So those are like a lot of my passion surrounding of who I am, a community advocate, a ultra runner, and a passion for the outdoors.
Yeah, we loved reading about your journey and your ultra running journey through your application. And we're so stoked that we picked you for our scholarship winner. And I've been privileged to be able to be your coach for the last, I don't know, a couple of months now. And it's been so fun to work with you. And so thank you for being with us on the podcast and thank you for sharing your story. One thing you said in your application that really stuck with me was like, my drive is to be a beacon in my community to inspire others to chase their dreams, even when life challenges us with optical obstacles. And I think that that's just such a good mindset. And I'd love for you to share kind of your story with our audience. But let's start from the beginning before we start through the journey. Can you take us back to 2016 and tell us like what first drew you to trail running and what did those like early miles look like for you?
Yeah, so I think most runners can relate that we all kind of start with the road running experience. You go into road running and I did the mistake that a lot of new runners do. We go on too hard, too fast, too soon. I ended up with shin splints. This was back in 2014. And pretty much what happened was I got really injured from road running based on not running properly. And it got to the point where the doctor said, like, you can't run, like you can walk, but it even hurt to walk. So I started hiking. And that's when 2015, I started hiking and realized that I could still enjoy the outdoors. And the reason why I needed to stay active was because at the time too, I was struggling a lot with my mental health.
Mm.
So at this time, I started the outdoors, I started hiking, and then I discovered trail running, ultra running, this whole other new world. I was like, what? People can run on the trails, this whole other sport, this whole other community. So in 2016, like New Year's, I set a goal of like, I'm going to run my first ultra. I signed up in October of 2016. And this is a person, like, I was like almost like 180 pounds. I've never ran like on the like trails before. I thought the same mentality road running. I thought you're like expected to run the whole time and you're not supposed to stop. So I was like, I could barely do like 1 mile on the trail without stopping, and I was dying. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna run 31 miles, but I'm gonna do this thing. So in 2016, I decided to sign up for the ultra and train for it, and I did my first ultra, which was the 50K. But it was really interesting. I like to share my first 50K experience because a lot of people like, I don't know, like this was where like my spark for like stubbornness and also like I'm gonna finish no matter what. Like I'll crawl to the finish line. This 50K really defined that. And it was literally I had the cut I remember the cutoff, but I remember the last aid station. They were like, hey, you're like really behind the cutoff, but if you want to keep going, we can let you go because there's a 50 miler happening. I was in so much pain. Like at mile 7, I started cramping, and I cramped from mile 7 to mile 31. And until this day, I don't know how I finished, but my grit and my willingness to cross that finish line no matter what, I did it. And it took me 12 and a half hours to finish this race because I was like, I don't care if they close the race. I'm going to do the distance. I'm determined to finish this thing. And I did it. I finished. It took me 12 and a half hours. I never want to take 12 and a half hours to do a 50K again. But it was a really like memorable experience of like, wow, if you really want something, and even if it gets hard and discomfort, like if you just really like if you bypass that, you'll be surprised of how far you can go. And that just kind of opened a door of opportunities like, oh my God, like I did this thing. What else can I do? And then the following year, I decided to do the Backbone Trail, which was it's 100K and with friends. And that was like the next thing. I was like, oh, let me just double the distance.
Yeah, that's the logical trail runner mindset, is to double the distance and think like, oh, this is fine. This is just double. Like, well, 31 was already really far, and so now 62 is extra far. But yeah, obviously you have some severe mental resilience, which is so impressive to see. And in your bio that you submitted with your application, you said that being a teen parent and raising your son as a single mother shaped your endurance. Obviously, from that story you just shared, it's made you super resilient, but how have you found that that experience translated into the mental toughness you carry with you through your ultra running?
Yeah, so I'm Mexican American, and in the Latin community, when you get pregnant as teenage parent, like you're expected to drop out of high school, drop out of college, have like 5, 6 kids after that. So
Mm.
I did get pregnant at 17. I had my son when I was 18. I managed to graduate with honors from high school because I wanted to challenge the status quo. Like I'm not going to be a statistics.
Mm.
Sally, I did have a very well. Now I thank my mom, but she's very conservative, and she was very like, "You're gonna figure this out on your own. I'm not gonna help you. I'm not gonna be a crutch for you." And then at 19, I separated from the father of my son, so I became a single parent, college student at 19, raising a toddler, and I literally had to do this on my own. And I became so resourceful. Like I was like, I'm gonna graduate from college no matter what, even like I don't care how long it takes, I'm gonna do this. So the obstacles, like I even went into academic probation because I was working 3 jobs. I was trying to raise a toddler and I was trying to do school, and it was really hard, and which also took a toll on my mental health. I know I talked a little bit about that too, but this obstacles of trying to raise a kid by myself and work enough to support myself and my son and still go to college. Like I realized that there's help out there. Sometimes we just have to go out and knock on doors and ask for
Mm.
help and not be ashamed of it. And that resilience of like, you know what, I'm willing to put in the work of like going, asking, applying for scholarships, applying for grants, applying for anything that I can to get this possible. And the daycare at my school, as long as I had good grades and I was passing my classes, there was grants to pay for subsidized childcare for my son.
Mm.
So that's how I was able to get childcare for my son while I was going to college and working. And yeah, I those obstacles of like being a single parent, how am I was like, there was days where I was like living off the dollar menu. Like I didn't know where I was getting, like those are like the financial struggles. And that's one thing, and I know I'm kind of going back, but that's one thing I love about ultra running is that ultra running prepares you when you're challenging yourself and you're going through adversity. It prepares you for the real life, because in real life you get adversity and challenges, and when you overcome things that you don't think it was possible to overcome, like their confidence and the resilience is you grow like that muscle or that kind of, I don't know, the thing that makes you stronger to overcome adversity. So I feel like the many years of, being a young teenage mom, going to college and graduated from college, getting into graduate school, like it was not easy. It was a lot of work, but overcoming all those obstacles, it made me realize like, Daisy, you can do it. Like, look how far you've come, even when nobody believed you. Like my mom really thought that I was going to get pregnant, have another kid, and she didn't believe that I was going to graduate from college. I kind of felt like I disappointed her, but later on, as I did graduate from college and got a job, and she realized like, oh, you did it, like you turned out all right. so that's kind of, I feel like the adversity of life and overcoming those challenges, especially as a single parent, you get challenged so hard. Like I feel like sometimes people talk about parenting, they're like, oh, it's so financially, it's a financial, you have to think about the finance. Like, no, the finance is not, like, people are not talking about enough about the emotional and like the mental takeaway of being a parent. Like the being there emotionally and mentally for your child is like a whole other layer of stress than just paying for diapers and formula being expensive. Like there's just so many other layers of being a parent. So a lot of sacrifices and a lot of adversity definitely comes along.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that experience. That is quite the journey. And I think it's really cool when you can learn from ultra running and apply it to your life. But in your case, obviously you learned by doing something way harder than ultra running will ever demand of you, and then applying it to ultra running, which is a really cool way to see that happen as well. Many things in ultra running are outside of our control. Sometimes we get, a rainy run, sometimes we get crazy heat, sometimes we get injured. It sounds like you had a diagnosis that you dealt with in 2023 when you got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Um, how has navigating that changed your relationship with running, both like physically and mentally? And how did you navigate that in the first place?
Yeah, it was hard. At first I was like in denial, but I also was like in this victim mentality of like, oh my
Mm,
God, my life is just I'm never gonna be able to run again. And like I just kind of really shut down. Like right away I did shut down. However, after I like kind of went like, okay, Daisy, like you have this and it doesn't define who you are. Like it's not, don't make multiple sclerosis now like your identity. Don't make that like
mm,
just it's part of you. It's not you, right?
mhm,
And when I started researching other athletes that do have other autoimmune diseases and they're still pushing their limits, they're running 100 milers, 200 milers, like that was inspiring to me,
mm,
being someone who was just diagnosed with an autoimmune disease that I had no idea what that really meant.
mhm,
And the way I describe people, because people hear about autoimmune diseases, but like out of like a first, if I was to describe a first grader, I pretty much what I tell them is think about your autoimmune system, your immune system that tries to protect you when you have a cold or the flu and attacks those bad guys in your body. Essentially, my nervous system, my immune system thinks my nervous system is the bad guy, so it's attacking my nervous system. And even though the nervous system is a good guy in my body, so I didn't know the impact of this.
mhm,
Um, and the idea of never being able to run again definitely came before my diagnosis, like the symptoms, like I couldn't walk, like I was in so much
mhm,
chronic pain. But it did make me feel grateful when I was able to walk and run. It's like, Daisy, you get to do this. And when I start coming in a perspective of gratitude and a perspective of what I can do, it
mhm,
shifted everything. Like, maybe one day I won't be able to run, and maybe one day I get paralyzed, and maybe one day, I don't know, but I can't
mhm,
live with what if or what's going to happen if it hasn't happened yet. I need to live in the present. I need to be in the moment. What can I do now? So one of the things that I started to really tune more with my body, which I feel like all runners should do this regardless if they have an autoimmune disease, is listen to your body. Like our body gives us so many signals. Like when I'm tired, when I need rest, fatigue. Let's what have I been doing? Have I been eating well? What I have been sleeping well? And I really love um Kaylee, that we've been working on this of like fuel your body, fuel your body. We talked about nutrition, and it's so important that sometimes I feel like we take these little things for granted, but these little things is what are the big things, like sleep and fuel, not just during your run, but outside your run. It's so important. So ever since my diagnosis, like I've been more in tune with my body, like really listening to my body, what it needs, instead of just like, I did have like that Goggins mentality before of like, who cares? Just keep going, like just work harder, like go, 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 like just, go until you can anymore. And I feel like now I come more of a way of compassion and caring towards myself. Like I do challenge myself, and actually had a question with we're having a conversation with Hillary when we first had our one-on-one. It's like, okay, well, how do you determine to the point where like, are you being lazy or you really need to like take a break, right? Like, where's that like line between like, okay, being honest with yourself, right?
Yeah.
I think the answer that I have for most athletes is like, you're someone who typically likes to challenge themselves and run ultra marathons and, do all of these things. That if you're tired, you're probably just tired and you're probably not lazy. But obviously, like, it's individualized. But I think the general type of person who likes to get into this sport is not like the lazy type. And so if you're really, really tired or really sad or anything like that, like that's probably more of a warning sign than like a weakness. But kind of on that Goggins mentality thing, a lot of runners come into the sport and learn the hard way around the fueling and hydration piece as well. And in Moab and Copper Corridor, it sounded that like you had some of those lessons that you learned during those. And I'm wondering if you can talk us through that little bit of a journey you've taken with the fueling and hydrating. And then we can get more into the nuance for how you'll apply that to Javalina. But yeah, do you mind talking through any of those lessons you had in the beginning?
Yeah, I didn't. In the beginning, I didn't feel a lot. Like I was just taking potato chips, and I don't even know. Like I think it was like noon electrolytes. But then now that I look at the component, like the macros, it's like that it wasn't enough sodium. I just was feeling fatigue, and I was actually surprised how far I was able to get with poor fueling. But once I was able to properly fuel and learn how to like understand more my body, because it is, everybody's body is different, right? What might work for me may not work for everyone else. But I've learned, like, I do feel like now that you can't run a car in an empty gas tank, right? So I feel like now that I've learned more how to properly fuel myself, I've been able to work harder, no, smarter, not harder kind of thing. And yeah, not fueling properly. Like it's just bad. Like cramping. I do get less cramps unless it's like super fatigueness. Like it's really now more or less rare. It's less rare now to get cramps than I did when I first started running, when I wasn't properly fueling. I wasn't getting enough water, enough electrolytes, and also the fatigueness of pushing too hard too soon. That all came into play. So I do feel like I'm able to enjoy more, not just the run because I'm properly fueling myself, but also I get to like be more in tune with my body. Like, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Like, what does my body need right now? And like just listening to my body, it plays into other aspects of my body too, not just with running, but if I'm tired or am I stressed out, like my self-awareness, I'm pretty like, I do have a high level self-awareness, but that's only because I listen to my body. Like I've learned to listen to my body, because at the long run, if I provide my body what it wants, it takes me far, and I'm able to do a lot of things I would have never imagined.
Yeah, and yeah, and kind of on that note, you're doing a lot of things. One thing that we really liked that you're doing for your community is that you've co-founded the run club Chingonga. I can't say it. Chingonas on the Run.
Yeah,
Sorry
that's
for
good.
butchering that.
That's good. You're
What
good.
what inspired you to create this group, and what does it mean for you to see like other women and people of color taking space on the trails?
So chingona means badass woman in Spanish.
Oh, I
Uh,
love that. Okay. And now I'll know how to say it and I know what
yeah.
it means.
And the reason why I founded, well, one of the reasons why this started was when I started ultra running. I live in LA, like LA County area, which is a very diverse community, but I still was finding it really hard to find someone to run with. So a lot of my trail running, especially early on, I was running by myself, and I was doing it because of the passion for running and being outdoors. However, there was a lot of people that would tell me like, be careful, like you have to be careful, like aren't you scared? Like they were trying to instill fear in me. And I get it. Like there's been many cases where women get assaulted on the trails or off the trails running, or there's just many like there's a lot of fear, right? So I didn't realize like the amount of women that will reach out to me like, Daisy, how are you not scared to run by yourself on the trail? And I think maybe, I don't know, maybe my like, well, if I could raise a kid at 17 years old and do anything, I don't know, I could run on the trail. I don't know, like or maybe my fear senses weren't like a lot, like, I don't know, activated or something. But I think my passion for the outdoors and running just overrode the fear of being out on the trails by myself. So I did wish I had a community or other women that I can go to and be like, hey, you want to go on a run with me? So I didn't see that. So that was one of the reasons why, like, I really wanted to create that space, because there is no woman, like, focus, like trail running, ultra running is dominated by males, regardless if you're, white or brown or whatever color you are, it's dominated by, which I love what you guys are doing, and with the scholarship and the opportunity to allow more, women to run on the trails. And then the other piece is also diversity. Like, a lot of times, and I've had this conversation with the other co-founder, Melissa, because I've had this issue too. Like, sometimes you really have to be strategic. What's going to be your, it's not even an A race. Like, what is going to be the one race you're going to register for the year? Because I don't have the financial, like, economical way to, oh, I'm going to do 100-miler, but then I'm going to sign up for 100K and a 5-miler, a lot of 50Ks to help me train for this 100-miler. Like, I can't do that. And like, you can see my ultra sign up, like, I don't have that many races, even though I've been running for ultras for 9 years, because most of the time it's just one race a year. And sometimes I do volunteer at the races to be able to get like free race entries or discounted race entries. So sometimes it's between paying for a race or getting new shoes or getting a new bag or running vest or paying for fuel. Like, these are decisions that we have to make. And I know there's a lot of other women that probably are struggling with the same thing. Like, sometimes, is it taking a vacation or doing an ultra? That'll be my vacation. Like, this is really hard. So we wanted to create the space for women not only to support each other, but also have like a financial piece. So we call this we have this program called the Chingona Collective, where people can donate their lightly used items. Like, sometimes we buy shoes, they don't work for us, we wear them 2 times, or clothes that didn't fit or we outgrown, any lightly used or new items, and other Chingonas can get it from there. So we do have this collective where people can grab there. And also, we're trying to, now we just became a nonprofit, so we're trying to apply for grants and trying to kind of do similar things, like provide scholarship and opportunities for other women to run these races, to run their bucket list races, and go after these things, because we want to see more diversity on the trails, and we want to see more women on these races. Like, I feel I'm so passionate about ultra running because I feel like this is our sport. Like, by our sport, I mean, like, this is a woman's sport in the sense of, like, we are made to run ultras. Like, the guys can have the short 5Ks, 10Ks, like, right? Like, they can have the marathons or the speed, the fast, short distances. But I really believe that women were designed, to run these long distances and really thrive in this sport. And I wish there was more competition in the sport and with more women involved. That's like my vision. I would love to see more women in the start lines. And if there's anything I can do in my community to, help or be that beacon or be that, assistance to, like, hey, let me help you right now, whatever we can. And then hopefully, show them that it's possible to do hard things and to do this, something that they've been wanting to do, but they just financially weren't able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, trail running can sometimes feel super exclusive. It's like you're trying to enter a club that you don't belong to. What do you think are some steps we could take as a community to make the sport more welcoming and accessible for others?
Yeah, I think having options, I would say right now, I don't know the racing company. I think it's Free Endurance, but like High Lonesome, whoever runs High Lonesome 100, they do a 50-50 race on the gender. And I think if more races did that, like most race directors, like try to aim for like a 50-50 race entry, that would, I feel like, would push, especially for these races that are getting sold out in their lottery systems. We will see more women out on these races. So I think, as for the race directors or race organizers, allowing some sort of system like that, I think the Trail Mix Fund offering scholarships, giving opportunity for people to, like, sign up for races. I think being more of a voice of allowing more people of color representation there, because it is intimidating. Sometimes I didn't feel like I belong in the trail run. When I first started, it was like a lot of like, oh my God, I'm the only brown girl here. Like it does, you do feel like an outlier. So I think just having involved more people of color, and if we can, right, like to to show, or I encourage people of color, like show up, like show, like it's okay to speak up and be part of the community as leaders. So
Totally.
yeah, so that's kind of one of the things that I really would encourage more community leaders, especially colors, of like speaking up and like what you guys are doing, like giving the space for someone like myself to speak up.
Getting more people on start lines is obviously gonna, increase the diversity of people that are gonna be on the start line. And then if you're looking around the start line, you might feel like you belong. If there's, more women on the start line, more women of color on the start line, more men of color on the start line. But obviously, like there's things that might need to change to make that more accessible. High Lonesome does a great job of being split 50-50. And, voices like yours are those that will encourage others to hopefully join the tribe of ultra runners that we are, small and mighty. Any other thoughts you have on that issue?
Um, I, I don't know, it's so complex because it's also like, I don't know, I kind of feel like it's also political in a way of like there's certain barriers, there's certain like races of like them very, like for example, I'm just gonna, put a race like that's really like for example, the Barkley, right? It was like laws is very determined, like no woman could ever finish, no woman could ever finish. And now we have, like we had our first woman finish. And it is kind of like sometimes having I think it is those women's just going to have to change. It's going to have to be athletes ourselves that are going to have to change the narrative. Like, no, we women are not soft. We're very hard. So it just, I think if everyone just shows up for themselves and really try their best and just be like, no, like women are badasses and kind of, yeah, show up and just like not be scared of taking space. And I think that's when I would encourage just ultra runners and like female ultra runners, like take up space, like don't be afraid. Like I know it can be intimidating to be around all these men and or like being around people that say, hey, you can't, you're not strong enough, or like what are you doing here. It's like, no, take up space. And then me, even as for me as a back of a pack runner, like then that's one thing I tell people, because there's so many people they're like, oh, I want to join your running group but I'm slow. And it's like, this is something I'm going to tell you right now, like someone's always going to be faster than you and someone's always going to be slower you. Like you're never going to be the slowest one. There's always someone's always above you and below you. Like, and you'll never get better until you show up. So if you're keep talking to yourself that you're just slow, or you're like, you start these negative thoughts of like, oh, I'm not good enough or anything like that, how will you ever know if you don't show up and you don't, see like for yourself where you're at? And you can always, the only way to get better is by improving. So I would encourage more female athletes to show. I know it's so scary to step in the territory of unknown, but first research, like there's so many resources out there. And I think more and more communities are realizing that this is the lack of not having enough, woman or representation in the community is there's a need for that, right? So I think there are people that want to help, but if we don't speak up or we don't show up, then how are they going to know where to help or where to ask for help, or who can they help? So I would just encourage more runners to just show up, and regardless of your pace, like you don't have to look a certain way. There's no ultra runner body or ultra runner, like, I don't know, like checklist. Like we need to be the change that we want to see, like essentially, right? Like, yeah, I just get very excited about this because I really just wish more people had the courage to show up, regardless of how they look, their speed, and if there's certain barriers that they're facing, like financial or even support. Because I get it, my mom does not like, she's not fond of me running ultras or being on the trails all day. She thinks it's very, like, especially now with my MS, she thinks it's very dangerous for me to be out running ultras. Like she doesn't understand the concept of like me running on a weekend, on like a Saturday or Sunday, like 20 miles. Like she's like, where are you? I'm calling you. You're in the mountains. Like she's scared. So I think a lot of this fear gets like in certain cultures. So sometimes it's hard. You don't feel like you have anyone that believes in you, and then you kind of just feel lonely. And I felt lonely for many years, which kind of rippled into my depression because I felt like nobody understood me and I didn't have a community that understood me. So when I put myself out there, you start attracting certain people in your life and other crazies, right? Like other people that just get it, and not like your coworker, like, oh, like, what'd you do this weekend? Like, we go run? Like, where did you go run? They don't even ask you how many miles you did because they already know you went running somewhere. So
No, I mean, I love this. And we love being able to support your journey. And I mean, with this scholarship, so you're going to have more resources, right, to support your goals. And I love this because you could be, an example, right? Maybe you are the person that people are going to watch and that they're going to be encouraged to take that step and be brave themselves. I mean, that's something maybe I'm excited about. But what are you most excited about with this scholarship and what you're gonna, yeah, what you're gonna do at Javelina?
Yeah, I'm excited to just be an example. Like we can be hard, we can do hard things, and also just getting the scholarship, right? Like I'm not fast. I'm not gonna guarantee to win. I'm not going, like, and usually sometimes people think like, oh, only like fast people can get opportunities, or only like fast people could get like, sponsorships or whatever. And then I just wanted to like, I'm just a runner that really loves the sport. And I hope to inspire anyone to just show up and really try their best. And just, you never know what you're capable of. And someone like myself, right? Like I always tell, like, if I can do it, you can do it too. I always tell people, like I tell my friends and on Instagram, on social media, is like, if I can do this, you can too. Like, trust me, like I know it's hard. I know you're a parent and you're trying to be a runner, and then you're an employee, and then you're a community leader. Like it's hard to make time to run and work out. But everyone has the same 24 hours. And at the end of the day, it does become with sacrifices. And I think everyone could agree that there's a level of sacrifice you have to make. It's saying no to going out that Friday night or Saturday night, or it's saying, going to sleep earlier, or it's kind of like saying, you know what, I'm going to have to set better work boundaries so that I can make time to go to the gym or go for a run, or having a support within the household of talking to your loved ones, talking to your partners or your children, like, hey, I have a run tomorrow. I'm going to be all day on the trails. Like, I need you guys to support me. One of the things that I do with my partner is I tell them when I want to do, like, even for Javalina, I was like, hey, like, I'm going to sign up for this and I really need to commit to this training. Like, I'm going to need your support. And I think when we start having these conversations with our loved ones, it will not make us feel shame or guilty of like going out for a run instead of being home with their family, or sometimes like cooking or meal prepping or like cleaning the house, or like there's so many layers of complexity that requires sacrifices. So sometimes we have to make sacrifices in order to make this work. Like it's been, I'm making my runs and my workouts a priority, just how it is like to go to a doctor's appointment or to go to work. You don't call off work all the time, right? So
I love that. And something that I've had the pleasure of working with you on a little bit is this, mental skills. And I feel like I mean, just listening to your story, and I mean, I love this just even with getting to know you a bit. I feel like you're already an expert on resilience anyways, and mental toughness and like overcoming challenges and, getting the most out of yourself on the day. But yeah, we've been talking about the mental side of training, which is really important. It's something I'm very passionate about training that just as you approach training the physical side of it. And at the beginning, we talked a lot about, setting standards rather than expectations, kind of as setting the precedent leading into this whole training block. And yeah, so it can give you the framework for success, like no matter the outcome, like you just said, right? It's how you define it. So I'm wondering, if you wanted to share maybe one standard that you've come up with that is working for you and that you're going to kind of take with you to race day.
yeah, I think, well, not one thing, but like one thing that I always tell myself is like, just you have to do this no matter what. Like finish a race no matter what. Like non-negotiables. Like something that and this has really helped. Like the only reason I DNF is really they either cut me off the race because I was too slow, or yeah, that's pretty much it. I just don't meet the cutoff. Or actually, one time I did DNF because, well, there's two times. One, I pulled my hamstring, and I just kept telling myself, okay, just get to the next aid station. And I was limping. I was like, okay, Daisy, this is now an injury. Like you have to stop. So just telling myself I'm going to finish no matter what, regardless of what it takes. And if I get uncomfortable, this actually happened in my last long run. After 9 miles, I wanted to quit. I was just feeling so fatigued, so tired. And I was going to message even Killy, like, hey, can I just do this long run next week? But then I started thinking, I was like, Daisy, if this was race day and you were feeling like this, what will you do on race day? And I was like, I'll just take a long break. I'll just take a long break to reset and until I can't keep going anymore. So that's what I did. I took an hour break, which literally long break, but I needed that. I needed to cool down. I was overheating. I need to assess what my body needed, and I kept going. So I think telling me that story has helped me of like, you're going to finish this no matter what, unless it's like an injury, like if, okay, is this like an injury risk, or is it like you get pulled out of the race because you're not meeting the cutoffs. But I think for Javalina, the cutoff shouldn't be a problem, hopefully. And I think I just have to be smart and just be like, if it's the heat with my MS, like just make sure I'm very a lot of self-awareness of making sure like, okay, because I do freak out sometimes of like, am I overheating? Or because of my MS, maybe I'm not as hot as I think I am, only because I'm scared that I am overheating. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Hillary.
Continue. I was gonna say, we also talked about if you're not finished like talking about that one, because I know we talked about a lot of that, like almost like fear-based things of like, oh, what could happen here, but then maybe like turning that into something, of a like how you're phrasing it, like it's more of a positive thing. Like this wouldn't be a failure if this happens because it's kind of out of my control.
Yeah, I always go to the mentality of like, just try your best, give it your all. And I think for me, if I know I gave it my all and I really tried my best, like that sense of failure, it kind of goes away because it's kind of like, what else could I have done? I really went all out and I really tried my best. And from here, it's just like, okay, if this were to happen again, where can I go to improve myself and how can I do this better? So instead of approaching like, am I a failure for not, like let's say for whatever reason, Javelina doesn't happen, something happens where I don't finish, right? Like I want to go into that race knowing that I really gave it my all. I did what we were supposed to do, even with the training. That's why I'm like, I've been really trying to like stick to the training as much as I can because I want to say I gave it my all and I really tried my best. And I don't want to go into it thinking like, oh, I should have done this or I should have done this. Like you didn't, or I left something in the tank. I really want to go in like I tried hard. I gave it my all. And not just like, oh, I gave up because there was that, I felt uncomfortable and it hurt. Like, that's not going to be the reason I dropped. Like, I know it's going to hurt at some point, right? A lot can happen in 62 miles. So,
yeah.
Going into a race when you give it your all, I feel like knowing that is just like, okay, it's just a learning experience. Doesn't define me. This is not, yeah, we just give it my all.
I love that. I mean, it's like effort based and yeah, these are all like little nuggets. This is so good. And I mean, maybe you already answered it, but just like, yeah, just one more question on the mindset stuff. As we had talked about like some roadblocks that you had kind of approaching around like speed training or getting a little bit uncomfortable. I know you talked about that a little bit. And we talked about kind of how ways to approach it, like setting no expectations, like leaning into your standards, like we just said, or these I am statements of like changing it into a positive, or like breaking things down into small chunks, like no matter the size. It's like, okay, I can run fast for 10 seconds. Maybe I can run fast for 30. I'm wondering if you could say if anything, if any of those have been working, or maybe you came up with something on your own.
Yeah, no, the I am fast has that I am statement has been working because it's been so hard. Like I still kind of feel weird saying it, but I think because I've been always saying I'm a slow runner, I'm a back runner, like I'm not designed to run fast, like I'm not a fast runner. I think it's like our words become a reality, right? So I think I've said it so much for so long that I've started to believe that I'm not so incapable of running fast. I'm already stopping myself from even trying to improve my speed because I'm already saying that I can't. So now, and I told Keely after the first like interval training that I did, I told her, I was like, that wasn't that bad. But she was like, well, yeah, I wasn't going to have you go do like something. Like she's easing me into it, which I really do appreciate it because it's not like, okay, this is doable. I can be suffering. And I always tell myself, okay, it's just 30 seconds, Daisy. It's only like a few minutes. Like this is gonna pass. Just allow yourself to be uncomfortable for these next 30 seconds. And I think that has helped of just like allowing myself to just be more in the present. And those I am statements I have been telling myself, I am fast. And the other day I was at the gym and I was lifting and I was like, I am fast and I am strong too. And I'm gonna guess. And then for some reason, I feel like I got this like urge to just lift heavier. Like I wanted to put more weight and I did. And I felt so strong. And I was like, that's right. Like I feel like our self-talk is so important. And sometimes we don't realize, even subconsciously, we may say things that like we are slow or I'm not good enough or I'm not capable of doing something. And there's this quote that says like, whether you think you whether you think you're right or, whether you think it's so or not, you're right. Like if you think you're slow, you're right. If you think you're not slow, you're right too. Like whatever your reality is, whatever your words are, they become your reality. So I think just slowly I feel like this I am statements is kind of rippling to like more positive and confidence. Like I feel so much more confident at the gym now. Like even today I actually messaged Kayla like, are you sure today there's no gym? Because I was looking forward to my gym session today, but sleeping 8 hours today also felt really good. But I am now like I don't know, like I'm owning that I'm someone that's capable of not just like taking care of themselves, and not just because of this race or just being an athlete, but because I love myself and because I want the best for myself. And also something I'm working towards is self-worth. Like that's an area where I struggled with. And I didn't realize this until like I was doing therapy. And it's kind of like, well, how do we work and improve our self-worth? And something my therapist told me, she was like, it's about like, we can start with just holding yourself accountable to the things you say you're going to do with yourself. And I was like, wow, that's so powerful, because I think we are so easily to not hold ourselves accountable. Like we say, oh, we're going to wake up in the morning and go for a run in the morning, but we don't. And if you were to say to a friend, you're going to go to the morning, you will show up, right? Like you do show up for others, but it's not so easy to show up for ourselves. And that's something I realized that, you know what, Daisy, you need to show up for yourself. You're like, you need to be your number one fan. Like you need to respect yourself as much as you would respect a friend if you were meeting up for a run. And that's really important. And it's not easy. It's definitely not easy, because it's easier for us to be like, oh, it's okay. But I think as we continue to build those like little yes moments or those accomplishments, it just, that confidence kind of starts growing. And also just like the positive self-talk starts coming in.
Yeah, I love hearing all this as your coach, because I think a lot of athletes don't do the work on the back end to be in a good mindset to actually do the work and like understand how they're feeling, how their body's feeling. So it's really cool to hear. We've only been working together for like maybe a month and a half or so now, but would love to hear your thought on just like how coaching, um, from like my perspective or from a coach's perspective can help you reach your goals, or what things have you taken away from the short term that have been most impactful?
I think the first thing I would say is just quality over quantity. I sometimes feel like, oh man, doesn't feel like a lot. Like I feel like I should be doing, in my head, I feel like we should be doing more miles, but I feel like the miles that we are doing, it's more like efficiency, right? Like it's the gym and the running. And the other day I was looking at my Strava and I was like, wow, there's so much. I'm either running or going to the gym, but for at least 6 days of the week, I'm doing something. And I've been doing that for a few weeks now. So it's just like, wow, the consistency, it's really like building on top of each other. So that's one of the biggest takeaway I've been just getting, is like, you don't have to do this crazy mileage or this crazy amount of workload to progress. And I'm already starting to feel like stronger. I'm feeling like this 9 mile run I did this past weekend. Like I felt like it went by so fast. It was a group run, but I felt so good. Like I was like, wow, this feels so good. I felt good. Like I didn't, which it was supposed to be an easy run, but I generally felt like this feels good. And I think that's the biggest thing. I've like having someone to coach you and just by like, just trust the process, Daisy, and not, if if it says to run 5 miles, don't go and run 20 miles or don't go, for a lot of hours. And I think that having a coach is just helps of like not overtraining. I don't feel like I'm overtraining. I feel like Keely has done a great job of like breaking it down where it's doable for me based on everything that I have going on, and also based from where I started, because sometimes I feel like that's where we lead to injuries, where we start somewhere and then we think we need to be at 50 miles per week, but we were only running 10 miles a week, and then we just jump from one week to another. So I think having someone, a professional coach or someone who knows what they're talking about to like kind of help you, guide you of like, hey, like you can be successful without having to run all this crazy stuff. And or another term like, or doing a lot of junk miles, right? Like they're just not intentional miles. You're just doing it because it looks good on Strava, or just like you just want to say, hey, like I did 100 miles this week or 80 miles, but a lot of them are like, and cutting them into two runs, doing 3 miles here. And I used to do that. Like I used to run in the morning a few miles and then break them at lunch and then run in the afternoon so I could get like to a 20 mile day. But in reality, I realized like actually doing 20 miles and together is not the same result as doing 20 miles and you break it down into 3 different runs. So when you actually said that you don't break down runs, I was like, yes, thank you. Because sometimes I feel like we do anything to cram and just make it happen so the number can add up. But I feel like the biggest takeaway I've gotten is it's quality work versus quantity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for you, the consistency is going to pay off big time. And we're so excited to see you at Javelina and you in all of your future endeavors. And we're so stoked that you're working with us for this scholarship. We have one last question we ask everybody who comes on our podcast before we wrap up. And that is, what is one thing you would tell your younger self? And so if you don't mind indulging us with your answer.
Oh man. Oh man. Okay. It just I think well the one thing oh, I'm trying not to get emotional now, but the biggest thing is like to tell myself like you are so loved. And yeah, I think that would be like the one thing, like you are so loved. And it's amazing and crazy how sometimes strangers or like people of the internet or like not your immediate family will support you so much more than the people like close to you. And because of that, like it's you don't feel sometimes loved or cared for or like yeah, love. Like I didn't feel love. And I've noticed this like every time like I've asked for like a GoFundMe for something or like support for something, I get more support from like the internet friends or the acquaintance or like the followers, like people who don't even sometimes they just it's like a virtual friendship versus like a real friendship, then like a family member like an uncle or a cousin or a high school friend, like somebody who's known you for so long. Like I feel support comes so like people are so willing to help you if you allow yourself to help you. So I think that would be the one thing to tell my younger self, like you are loved. And the reason why I even would say that, because I didn't feel love. Not only did I not feel love externally, I didn't feel love internally because I didn't feel like I was worth of someone to love or be loved. Um, it rippled to someone who was depressed and someone who didn't want to be on this planet anymore, and someone who, attempted to kill themselves. So I think changing that narrative, if I would have believed like that I am loved and that I can love myself and that I'm someone worth of being on this planet, my whole like ability of like how I would treat myself would have changed. Because I feel like when we don't love ourselves, then we start to do things to like subconsciously hurt ourselves. Like we start eating things that are not fuel, like that will fuel our body properly, or we start binging on things, or like it's just like a ripple of things that we start doing because subconsciously we don't feel like we're worthy of something great. And yeah, that's the one thing I would tell my younger self, that you're so loved and you have no idea how much people are willing to help you and support you. So if there's that one crazy idea or goal or dream that you have, just go for it and the right people will come to you to help you make it happen if you allow it for it. Because sometimes we can be a little stubborn and not ask for help or open to receiving. But there's always someone out there willing to help you. You just have to be open to receiving.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
thank
sharing
you.
that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. We're honored to hear the innermost thoughts of your mind, and I am so glad that you're willing to share that with us and also for all the work that you've done over the years. And we're so excited to see how this all progresses in the future and can't wait to see you at Javelina. And we thank you so much for all your time.
But thank you both, and thank you so much for the opportunity. Like I'm super grateful for Trail Society and for Rabbit, Pearl, and also for Vipa for allowing all this to kind of come together and to allow an opportunity, right, for someone like myself to be able to run a race like Javelina 100K. So I'm super excited, super stoked. But I just want to deeply say how grateful I am for the opportunity. So thank you so much for everything.
Alrighty. I'm so excited for Javelina. I don't know how you all feel, but it is like one of the best events of the year. And working with Rabbit on these scholarships has made it feel even more special and important.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited to be there. It's gonna be so cool to watch
We're
Daisy
at a
race.
wedding that weekend. I'm like
Yeah.
so sad. It's gonna be my first time missing Javelina in a hot second.
I've
Well,
never been to
I'll
Javelina.
find what? You have to come then. I'll find a costume
I've
for you
never
for
been there.
I'll
Yeah,
channel you while I'm there.
costumes required, okay?
So, okay, well, yeah, this is actually the exciting
And
part.
if you're there crewing and supporting, multiple costumes. is ideal.
Yep.
Mm.
Outfit
You need
change.
something for like when it's hot during the day, and then you need something that's like a furry onesie for later when it's cooler. Like you got to have some variety.
Yeah,
Or,
and like
some
your runners
floral sun shirts. I don't know. That seems to
or
work.
floral sun shirts. Yeah, you can dress up like us.
Trail
Latest
Society
costume
costumes.
ever.
That'd be so sick. Do we have that? Yeah, it's like the Trail Society crew.
I
Duh.
mean,
That's
the
why we
clothes
made
are
the line.
awesome, but I mean, I really hope someone chooses to be someone cooler than me for
Or
Halloween.
like a unicorn or like SpongeBob. Like there are options out there.
I'm just saying, if you want like a functionality to your costume and like protect yourself from the sun, that is a fun layer that you could throw in there somewhere.
Yeah, but you could be like a duck then in our yellow,
Or you
Sure.
could be
UPF
lichen in the
defender.
green one.
Can be a liking you a lot. Okay.
There's
Yep. There we go.
options. But speaking of all those options, you guys, again, this is your opportunity to slide into our DMs. We have a limited amount of time before things go into production for 2026. Slide into our DMs.
Hmm.
I don't know. Is there a certain pattern you're interested in, a certain colorway you're fascinated by, a certain product that you're looking for? Let us know. And again, you can use that code TrailHop10 over at runningrabbit.com. And now we have to Society Slam before we let you guys go for today.
You can
Keely, you're
start us
going
off.
first.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. I'm starting us off.
Yeah.
We have one listener says, "Hi ladies, I love so much following you guys. I was just listening to your last podcast on August 26th and heard that are more sun hoodies. Yay, because I logged in too late last time. So we already sent her the new September discount code, but then she asked if she's considering getting one of their sports bras and has never tried them on. So I'm usually between an extra small and a small, so I was wondering if you would know if these typically run big or small. Thanks in advance." And so I can give my opinion, then would love both of your opinions as well. On sports bras, I feel like I wear a small in pretty much every single sports bra that I've ever worn, and I wear a small there. So I think they're relatively standard in the sports bra world. Yeah, that's my thought.
I would agree. I think they're pretty true to size. Yeah.
Yeah. I would think so too. And I think one of the things that we're interested in is making a higher impact sports bra
Hmm.
in 2026 because I think that the rabbit ones are pretty like light to medium
Hmm.
impact. So depending on breast size, you might be a little bit off there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think they're relatively true to size. So
Yeah. And if you have like a really tall torso, which I do, the straps that sometimes if they're not the adjustable straps, they can feel a little bit snug here. But still, I'd say probably still true to size.
yeah, I feel like sports bras in particular. I size up on like sometimes on like tops in general because I've got broader shoulders and bigger lats, but I think that you should be good to go
Mhm.
in that regard. That can be another future DM of the like constant
Mm.
sizing. The constant sizing. It's hard. It's really difficult to find sizing sometimes when you don't get to try it on ahead of time. Okay, I'll take this next one. Just wanted to give you all a shout out. I ran my second 100 over the weekend. Heck yeah. And it went so much better than the first time. This time I was higher carb, creatine, and lower training volume, and they all played a huge role. I wore my Rabbit Trail Society hat and ice bandana during the race and felt fabulous. Love you guys. Gear in the wild.
That's
Love
awesome.
hearing these stories.
Okay, we're ready for the third. Hi all. I'm a huge fan of the podcast and tell all my girlfriends about it all the time. From bra research to the reminders to eat while I listen, I love it all. As a Hispanic runner, I so appreciated the mention this week about the BIPOC runners. You mentioned someone who works at UTB/Latin America, Lily. She said, she's asking, and if it's at all possible, I would love to know more about that work or get a contact to chat with. I keep daydreaming about a way to bring stories from Hispanic women trail runners to the world of trail running and would love to learn more about what big organizations like UTMB are doing to include people like me. I'd also love the support an organization that introduces running to girls in Latin America. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you.
So a couple things. Yes, we will. I'll make sure that we can respond to you in our DMs with Lily's information. She's amazing. She works on
Mhm.
the, particularly in Mexico on the races there and is working with the indigenous women there to be present at the race that's going on in Chihuahua, Mexico in October. So we'll make sure that you guys get connected there. And then the other thing is that if you're super interested in Latin American women in trail running, they've only put out a couple episodes because they're both crazy busy people, but you guys, another podcast plug, Mango Nada with Vanessa and Carolina. Carolina's been a guest on our podcast. She's amazing. She just finished UTMB, which is a big freaking deal. They're both Colombian. They are both so real and so fiery and just like make me want to like shake things and change the world. But they host a podcast called Mangonada. I think they've only got 3 or 4 episodes out, but I would go check that out for sure. They'd be amazing people to connect with. Vanessa works with POW. Carolina's a immigrant attorney, an activist out in New Jersey. They're phenomenal. So go check that out as well. And then we'll make sure that you guys get connected with Lily so that you can talk to her one-on-one.
Nice. Oh, I love fostering all of these connections.
Yay! And then, speaking of reminding you to eat snacks, that's what we do right now. You've been listening to us for a while, yapping away. So if that is the case and you are out on a run, it is time to eat whatever snack you have with you so you can stay well fueled and well hydrated. And until next time, we'll see you out on the trails.